Hi, all. Hi, everybody. I'm just sort of here rambling on. I can't even hear myself talk. It's awesome. Anyway, let's see. Make that big. Make this big. And roll it. Wait, I need to check something. Because I fucked this up so many times. I'm terrible at this, as you all have discovered. But I think this works.
Speak to me of heroin and speed, a genocide and suicide, of syphilis and greed. Speak to me the language of love, the language of violence, the language of the heart. This isn't the first time I've asked for money or love. Heaven on earth don't ever mean love. Speak to me of heroin and speed. Just give me something I can believe. War is too many people. War is
Okay, so there you go. The horse hustler and the hustler swore. I just damn, that sort of is kind of a thing for the past how many decades now? Is it ever going to end? I don't know. Everybody got a thing to shill. Everybody got a thing to make good on, I guess. I'm just sort of here to hang out. This afternoon, the 19th of November, 2023. With trouble in the Middle East. Trouble in the Middle East. Suez Crisis, 67 war, was it 71, 73, I think it was Yom Kippur War. Uh, 1948, tried to make sense out of the colonial mess left over from the end of the First World War. Do we all just keep trying to clean up after our wars? Speak to me of heroin and speed. Maybe that's where we need to wind up. I don't know. I'm just an old lady trying to ramble on here. I've I've sort of put my put the thing out there. Anybody wants to check in and chat. That'd be great. As for me, had a great talk this afternoon with a Kentucky atheist who seems to have taken a shine to my little trip, which is great. Really enjoyed that. I've taken a shine to his too. And Kentucky moonshine, there ain't no thing better than Kentucky moonshine, I don't think. Although, I will say, that in Columbia, South Carolina, there's a little place, the Columbia Yacht Club, right close by where there's some damn good South Carolina moonshine to have. Inside the Columbia Yacht Club, to my chagrin, there is a photograph of a namesake, or at least someone I share a last name with, planting a Confederate flag on the South Pole. That's a little troublesome. For a stretch there, I was able to attend the Easter Regatta at said Columbia Yacht Club. And the breakfast was great. You know, your grits and your scrambled eggs and your biscuits and gravy. Really yummy. Good stuff. Good stuff. But every time I'd go inside the Columbia Yacht Club and I saw this guy with who I share a last name with, planting a Confederate flag on the South Pole, I'd sort of go, oh no. Oh no. Because that flag sort of means something to me. And I suspect it meant something to him too. Mind if I smoke? Suppose some of you do, and I suppose some of you are right. I really shouldn't. It's gonna kill me. Um, that's okay. Speak to me of heroin and speed. A lot of things gonna kill me. Maybe hypocrisy is gonna kill me. I don't know. Maybe life's gonna kill me. Maybe it's gonna get all of us in the end. Oh no. How crazy is that? I'm just sort of here riffing away right now. I'm just sort of passing time, killing time. Hey, Carrie Ann. Good to see you. Yeah, Maya's got Bad Science coming up where we can all laugh, which I think is good. Laughter is good. Like I said, I had a lot of fun talking about some of the stuff I talk about on this channel with the Kentucky Atheist who wanted me over on his channel to talk about trans issues. I gotta be honest, I'm fucking sick and tired of that issue. Tired and tired and tired, tired, tired. I'm so tired. At the end of it all, a lot of people talk about the trauma they're coming out of, trauma of religion that they're coming out of, trauma of having to deal with all of that, and maybe I'm just sort of in this place where I just don't feel it. Just don't feel that trauma any longer. And to be quite honest, I never did feel that trauma because other traumas, well, they seem to be a little bit more. And yeah, Carrie Ann, I've been in need of the lighthearted stuff lately because life's been heavy. Yeah, no shit. Life is heavy. I kind of, I, I enjoy, I enjoy the lighthearted stuff, and I wish I'm trying to sort of psych myself up to do lighthearted stuff, and it's like the let's be satirical, but it's fucking hard. I wonder what would be a lighthearted thing to do. Any suggestions out there? I can be lighthearted. You've seen my light side. I think some of you have anyway. It's a poem. Poem. Well, I might have to. I might have to think a little. I might have to actually get a poem up. Whose woods these are? I think I know. His house is in the village, though. He will not see me stopping here. I've got to. Uh, I've got to. At this point, uh, Stopping by the Woods on a Snowy Evening by Robert Frost. Whose woods these are, I think I know. His house is in the village, though. He will not see me stopping here to watch his woods fill up with snow. My little horse must think it queer to stop without a farmhouse near. Between the woods and frozen lake, the darkest of evening of the year. It gives his harness bells a shake to ask if there is some mistake. The only other sounds the sweep of easy wind and downy flake. The woods are lovely, dark and deep, but I have promises to keep and miles to go before I sleep, and miles to go before I sleep. That's a good one that always kind of stuck with me. And let's keep going with Frost. Something there is that doesn't love a wall. That throws. Let's see. Damn. Mm-hmm. Yes, there we are. Mending wall. Something there is that doesn't love a wall, that sends the frozen ground swell under it and spills the upper boulders in the sun, and makes gaps even two can pass abreast. The work of hunters is another thing. I've come after them and made repair, where they have left not one stone on a stone. But they would have the rabbit out of hiding to please the yelping dogs, the gaps, I mean. No one has seen them made or heard them made, but at spring in mending time, we find them here. I let my neighbor know beyond the hill, and on a day we meet to walk the line, and we set the wall between us once again. We keep the wall between us as we go. To each the boulders that have fallen to each. And some are loaves and some are so nearly balls. We have to use a spell to make them balance, Stay where you are until our backs are turned. We wear our fingers rough with handling them. Oh, and just another kind of outdoor game. One on a side comes to little more. There where it is, we do not need the wall. He's all pine, and I am apple orchard. My apple trees will never get across and eat the cones under his pines, and I tell him, he only says good fences make good neighbors. Spring is mischief in me, and I wonder if I could put a notion in his head. Why do they make good neighbors? Isn't it where there are cows? But here, there are no cows. Before I built a wall, I'd ask to know what I was walling in or walling out, and to whom I was like to give offense. Something there is that doesn't love a wall, that wants it down. I could say elves to him, but it's not elves exactly. And I'd rather he said it for himself. I see him there bringing up a stone, firmly grasped by the top, in each hand like an old stone savage armed. He moves in darkness, as it seems to me, not of woods only and the shade of trees. He will not go behind his father's saying, and he likes having thought of it so well. He says it again. Good fences make good neighbors. Good suggestion. Everybody looks so ill at ease, so distrustful, so displeased. Running down the table, I see a borderline, like a barbed wire fence, strung tight, strung tense, prickling with pretense, a borderline. Why are you smirking at your friend? Why is this to be the night where all well wishing ends, all credibility, all credibility revoked, thin skin, thick jokes? Can we blame it on the smoke, this borderline? Every bristling shaft of pride, church or nation, team or tribe, every notion we subscribe to is just a borderline. Good or bad, we think we know, as if thinking makes things so. All convictions grow up along a borderline. Smug in your jaded expertise, you've scathed the wonder world and you praise barbarity in this illusionary place. This sacred, this scarred, hard edged rat race. All liberty is laced with borderlines. Every income, every age, every fashion plated rage, every measure, every gauge creates a borderline. Every stone thrown through glass, every mean street's kick ass, every swan caught on the grass will draw a borderline. You snipe so steady, you snub so snide, so ripe and ready to diminish and deride. You're so quick to condescend, my opinionated friend. All you deface, all you defend is just a borderline. Just a borderline. Another borderline. Just a borderline. Joni Mitchell, song called Borderline. Yeah, man. Asso, Carrie Ann, James, Hunter, Biden's laptops, autistic berserker. Carrie Ann suggested the poetry. Yeah, I don't know. It's the time of year. It's the maybe for me, fall is always an interesting time. November is an interesting time. Um, when Abraham Lincoln was shoveled into the tombs, he forgot the copperheads and the assassin in the dust in the cool tombs. And Ulysses Grant all thought of con men, Wall Street, cash, and collateral turned ashes in the dust in the cool tombs. Pocahontas's body, lovely as a poplar, sweet as a red haw in November, or as a pawpaw in May. Did she wonder? Did she remember in the dust in the cool tombs? Take any street full of people buying clothes and groceries, cheering a hero, or throwing confetti and blowing tin horns. Tell me if the lovers are losers. Tell me if any get more than the lovers in the dust, in the cool tombs. Carl Sandburg, 1918. Other bits of poetry. Hmm. Thoughts of poetry. Hmm. Anybody got any poems that they're fond of? Hmm. There once was a man from Nantucket whose dick was so long you could suck it. And yeah, I know. There is that one. Limericks. I'm trying to think of a good limerick. Oh, I have one that was written on a bathroom stall. Not sure this is poetry, although I think it is. Maguire, may the bleeding piles be with you. May corns adorn your feet. May crabs as big as horse turds sit on your bag and eat. And when you are old and feeble and a syphilitic wreck, may your spine fall out your asshole and break your fucking neck. Dash anon. Let's see. More poetry. Hmm. I don't know as I can read the entirety of Howl, although it wouldn't be bad. I could do that. I could read Howl. Not too long a poem. I like the beats. Because I saw the best minds of my generation destroyed by madness, starving, hysterical, naked, dragging themselves through the Negro streets at dawn, looking for an angry fix, angel-headed hipsters burning for the ancient heavenly connection to the starry dynamo and the machinery of night, who poverty and tatters and hollow-eyed and high up sat smoking in the supernatural darkness of cold water flats floating across the tops of cities, contemplating jazz, who bared their brains to heaven under the L and saw Mohammedan angels staggering on tenement roofs, illuminated, who passed through universities with radiant, cool eyes, hallucinating Arkansas and Blake Light tragedy among the scholars of war, who were expelled from the academies for crazy and publishing obscene odes on the windows of the skull, who cowered in unshaven rooms in underwear, burning their money in wastebaskets and listening to the terror through the wall, who got busted in their public beards returning through Laredo with a belt of marijuana for New York, who ate fire in paint hotels or drank turpentine in Paradise Alley, death, or purgatoried their torsos night after night with dreams, with drugs, with waking nightmares, alcohol, and cock, and endless balls, incompatible blind streets of shuddering cloud, and lightning in the mind leaping toward the poles of incomparable blind streets of shuddering cloud and lightning in the mind leaping toward the poles of Canada and Patterson, illuminating all the motionless world of time between peyote solidities of halls, backyard, garden trees, cemetery dawns, wine drunkenness over the rooftops, storefront boroughs of tea head, joyride, neon blinking, traffic light, sun and moon and tree vibrations in the roaring winter dusks of Brooklyn, ashcan rantings, and kind king light of mind who chain themselves to subways for the endless ride from Battery to Holy Bronx on Benzedrine until noise of wheels and children brought them down shuddering, mouth racked and battered, bleak of brain, all drained of brilliance in the drear light of zoo, who sank all night in submarine light of Bickfords, floated out and sat through the stale beer afternoon in desolate fugazis, listening to the crack of doom on the hydrogen jukebox, who talk continuously 70 hours from park to pad to bar to Bellevue to museum to the Brooklyn Bridge, a lost battalion of platonic conversationalists jumping down the stoops of off fire escapes, off windowsills, off Empire State, off the moon. Yakety yakking, screaming, vomiting, whispering facts and memories and anecdotes and eyeball licks and shocks of hospitals and jails and wars, whole intellects disgorged in total recall for 7 days and nights with brilliant eyes meet for the synagogue cast on the pavement who vanished into nowhere, Zen, New Jersey, leaving a trail of ambiguous picture postcards of Atlantic City Hall. Suffering Eastern sweats and Tangerine bone grindings and migraines of China under junk withdrawal in Newark's bleak furnished room, who wandered around and around at midnight in the railroad yard, wondering where to go and when, leaving no broken hearts, who lit cigarettes in boxcars, racketing through snow towards lonesome forms in Grandfather Night, who studied Plotinus Poe, St. John of the Cross, telepathy, and Bob Kabbalah, because the cosmos instinctively vibrated at their feet in Kansas, who loaned it through the streets of Idaho, seeking visionary Indian angels who were visionary Indian angels, who thought they were only mad when Baltimore gleamed in supernatural ecstasy, who jumped in limousines with the Chinamen of Oklahoma on the impulse of winter midnight street light small town rain, who lounged hungry and lonesome through Houston seeking jazz or sex or soup and followed the brilliant Spaniard to converse about America and eternity, a hopeless task, and so took ship to Africa, who disappeared into the volcanoes of Mexico, leaving behind nothing but the shadow of dungarees and the lava and ash of poetry scattered in fireplace Chicago, who reappeared on the West Coast investigating the FBI in beards and shorts with big pacifist eyes, sexy in their dark skin, passing out incomprehensible leaflets, who burned cigarette holes in their arms, protesting the narcotic tobacco haze of capitalism, who distributed super communist pamphlets in Union Square, weeping and undressing while the sirens of Los Alamos wailed them down and wailed down wall. And the Staten Island Ferry also wailed, who broke down crying in white gymnasiums, naked and trembling before the machinery of other skeletons, who bit detectives in the neck and shrieked with delight in police cars for committing no crime but their own wild cooking, pederasty, and intoxication, who howled on their knees in the subway and were dragged off the roof, waving genitals and manuscripts, who let themselves be fucked in the ass by saintly motorcyclists, who screamed with joy, who blew and were blown by those human seraphim, the sailors, caressers of Atlantic and Caribbean love, who bawled in the morning, in the evenings, in rose gardens and the grass of public parks and cemeteries, scattering their semen freely to whomever come who may, who hiccuped endlessly, trying to giggle, but wound up with a sob behind a partition in a Turkish bath when the blonde and naked angel came to pierce them with a wand. Sorry, Alan, that was sword. Who lost their love boys to the three old shrews of fate, the one-eyed shrew of the heterosexual dollar, the one-eyed shrew that winks out of the womb, and the one-eyed shrew that does nothing but sit on her ass and snip the intellectual golden threads of the craftsman's loom, who copulated ecstatic and insatiate with a bottle of beer, a sweetheart, a package of cigarettes, a candle, and fell off the bed and continued along the floor and down the hall and ended fainting on the wall with a vision of ultimate cunt and cum, eluding the last jism of consciousness, who sweetened the snatches of a million girls trembling in the sunset. And they were red-eyed in the morning, but prepared to sweeten the snatch of the sunrise, flashing buttocks under barns and naked in the lake, who went out whoring through Colorado in myriad stolen night cars, North NC, secret hero of these poems, Cockman and Adonis of Denver, joy to the memory of his innumerable ways of girls in empty lots and diner backyards, movie houses, rickety rows on mountain tops and caves, or with gaunt waitresses in familiar roadside lonely petticoat upliftings, and especially secret gas station solipsisms of John's and hometown alleys too, who faded out in vast sordid movies, were shifted in dreams, woke on a sudden Manhattan, and picked themselves up out of basements hung over with heartless Tokay and horrors of Third Avenue iron dreams, and stumbled to unemployment offices, who walked all night with their shoes full of blood on the snowbank docks, waiting for a door in the East River to open a room full of steam heat and opium, who created great suicidal dramas on the apartment cliff banks of the Hudson under the wartime blue floodlight of the moon, and their heads shall be crowned with laurel in oblivion who ate the lamb stew of the imagination or digested the crab at the muddy bottom of the rivers of the Bowery, who wept at the romance of the streets with their pushcarts full of onions and bad music, who sat in boxes, breathing in the darkness under the bridge, and rose up to build harpsichords in their lofts, who coughed on the sixth floor of Harlem, crowned with flame under the tubercular skies, surrounded by orange crates of theology, who scribbled all nights, rocking and reveling over lofty incantations, which in the yellow morning were standards of gibberish, who cooked rotten animals, lung, heart, feet, tail, borscht, and tortillas, dreaming of the pure vegetable kingdom, who plunged themselves under meat trucks looking for an egg. Folks, I have gotten through all of that, and I have reached our first period. This is Allen Ginsberg. This is, and it is actually all of that is going on the first stanza. I saw the best minds of my generation destroyed by madness, starving, hysterical, naked. And until that period, which I need to find again, past the cigarettes, past the NC, past the oh dear. I don't know, man. It's fucking, it's a long poem. It's a long poem. Anybody want to get in here? Holy shit. I could go on reading Allen Ginsberg, but it's like, yeah, that was fucked up. And we were fucked up. The beats were fucked up, We were fucked up. Y'all are fucked up. You're all figure it out. or laugh. I mean, I do like reading poetry. I think it's fun. Maybe I should just go to I've Eaten the Plums, which one? That were in the icebox. It's a lot easier that way. It's back to Howl. Anybody want to go back to Howl? Tell me if you want me to keep reading Howl, a dramatic reading of Allen Ginsberg. Tell me if you've had enough, or you prefer something a little bit more A.A. Milne. Hey, Robin. Listen, I really enjoyed being on KFA's stream earlier today, and I think it's pretty cool. Jesus, Sam Carp, you don't know Howl? Holy shit! I this will probably it's like, can you read is Howl a poem that is outside of TOS on YouTube? Somebody tell me if reading Howl is outside of TOS on YouTube. That would be it wouldn't surprise me. I mean, when I see just a little bit of commentary, when I see all of this cancel culture, blah blah blah. Look at Allen Ginsberg. Look at the beats. Look at the hippies. Look at the people talk to me about cancel culture, and I say, go fuck yourself. You must be joking. When I see billionaires whipping and whining that they're being canceled when they go out and buy a whole goddamn site based on speech in order for them to make the speech conform to what they want to hear. I got to show you people something right now. I got to show you people something. Jesus, this is sick shit. I'm going to show you what a man who complains about cancel culture is platforming. The guy who spent $44 billion to, I don't know, have fun, I guess. Certainly wasn't to make money. It was basically to cover his ass and to push out his bullshit. I want to show you this bullshit. You won't, you probably will believe it. But hold on. Of course you'll believe it. Because it's kind of believable, and it's actually kind of the way the internet works is you can find it yourself. Right? Chaya Raichik is libs of TikTok. What these tweets or sheets or excretes, however you want to call them, these posts. I took out the dead naming. I took out the pre-transition photos. But Chaya Raichik doesn't care about that. Chaya Raichik made the post, so here we go. Libs of TikTok, while I have your attention, your reminder that dead name Ari Drennan is a man who just pretends to be a woman. And there were 2 photographs of Ari pre-transition. And Ari's tweet is, while we have your attention, Media Matters has confirmed 2 additional incidents, basically where people are being assholes. And Chaya goes on, by the way, this is the dude who works for Media Matters, and she does. She works for Media Matters and helped push advertisers to leave X to try to destroy Elon Musk. Advertisers are taking their orders from a mentally ill man who dresses up as a woman. And the man himself goes, wow. Now, don't you all think that Chaya Raichik doesn't know which side of the bread the butter is on, because she's spreading the butter for Elon, who himself is, as I said in my He's an overweening transphobe. He has a trans child who has disowned him. And Rachik is just sitting there, you know, pumping it up, pumping it up. So the thing that, you know, the 0.2% of the population that hangs with me. Yeah, that this is what we have to put up with. Put up with? But when I'm saying this, if you think back on what I just read from Howell, and I'll go back to reading Howell again, because you know what? It just sort of reminds me of where we were in when was Howell? When was Howell published? Holy shit. I gotta look that up. I gotta look that up. When was Howell published? 1950 fucking 6. I was 3. Holy shit. Jesus Christ. I think it was published by Northern Lights, and that guy just recently died. The owner of Northern Lights bookstores. The Northern Lights bookstore in San Francisco. Oh, all right. Back to the back to the back to the thing, I guess. All right, we don't need that shit anymore. Bye bye. All right, so where was I? Yeah. Let's see. We get past the saintly motorcyclist. I think I finished at the egg part. Looking for an egg. Who threw their watches off the roof to cast their ballot for eternity outside of time, and alarm clocks fell on their heads every day for the next decade, who cut their wrists 3 times successively, unsuccessfully, gave up, and were forced to open antique stores where they thought they were growing old and cried, who were burned alive in their innocent flannel suits on Madison Avenue amidst blasts of leaden verse and tanked up clatter of the iron regiments of fashion and the nitroglycerin shrieks of the berries of advertising and the mustard gas of sinister intelligent editors, or were run down by the drunken taxicabs of absolute reality, who jumped off the Brooklyn Bridge this actually happened and walked away unknown and forgotten into the ghostly days of Chinatown soup alleyways and fire trucks, not even one free beer, who sang out of their windows in despair, fell out of the subway window, jumped in the filthy Passaic, leaped on Negroes, cried all over the street, danced on broken wine glasses barefoot, and smashed phonograph records of nostalgic European 1930s German jazz, finished the whiskey, and threw up groaning into the bloody toilet, moans in their ears, and the blast of colossal steam whistles, who barreled down the highways of the past, journeying to each other's hot rod Golgotha jail solitude watcher, Birmingham jazz incarnation, who drove cross country 72 hours to find out if I had a vision, or if you had a vision, or if he had a vision, to find out eternity, who journeyed to Denver, who died in Denver, who came back to Denver and waited in vain, who watched over Denver and brooded and loaned in Denver, and finally went away to find out the time. And now Denver is lonesome for her heroes, who fell on their knees and hopeless. Dear me, my phone is ringing. Who fell on their knees in hopeless cathedrals, praying for each other's salvation and lightened breasts until the soul illuminated its hair for a second, who crashed through the mines in jail, waiting for the impossible criminals with golden heads and the charm of reality in their hearts, who sang sweet blues to Alcatraz, who retired to Mexico to cultivate a habit, or Rocky Mount to tender Buddha, or Tangiers to Boys or Southern Pacific, to the Black Locomotive, or Harvard, or Narcissus, or Woodlawn, to the Daisy Chain or Grave, who demanded sanity trials, accusing the radio of hypnotism, and were left with their insanity in their hands and a hung jury, who threw potato salad at CCNY lecturers on Dadaism and subsequently presented themselves on the granite steps of the madhouse with shaven heads and harlequin speech of suicide, demanding instantaneous lobotomy, and who were given instead the concrete void of insulin, metrazole, electricity, hydrotherapy, psychotherapy, occupational therapy, ping pong, and amnesia, who in humorless protest overturned only one symbolic ping pong table, resting briefly in catatonia, returning years later truly bald, except for a wig of blood and tears and fingers. To the visible madman doom of the wands and of the mad towns of the East, Pilgrim States Railroad, Pilgrim Streets, Rocklands, and Greystown's fetid halls, bickering with the echoes of the soul, rocking and rolling in the midnight solitude bench, dolmen dreams of love, dreams of life, a nightmare, bodies returned to stone as heavy as the moon. With mother finally star, I'm going to say. And the last fantastic book flung out of the tenement window. And the last door closed at 4 a.m. And the last telephone slammed at the wall in reply. And the last furnished room emptied down to the last piece of mental furniture, a yellow paper rose twisted on a wire hanger in the closet, and even that imaginary nothing but a hopeful little bit of hallucination. Ah, Carl, while you're not safe, I am not safe. And now you're really in the total animal soup of time, and who therefore ran through the icy streets obsessed with the sudden flash of the alchemy of the use of the ellipsis catalog of variable measure and the vibrating plane, who dreamt and made incarnate gaps in time and space through images juxtaposed, and trapped the archangel of the soul between two visual images, and joined the elemental verbs and set the noun and dash of consciousness together, jumping with the sensation of Pater omnipotens aeterna Deus, to recreate the syntax and measure of poor human prose, and stand before you speechless and intelligent and shaking with shame, rejected yet confessing out the soul to conform to the rhythm of thought in his naked and endless head. The madman, bum, and angel beat in time, unknown, yet putting down here what might be left to say in time come after death, and rose reincarnate in the ghostly clothes of jazz and the gold horn shadow of the band, and blew the suffering of America's naked mind for love into an Eli, Eli, Lama, Lama, Sabachthani saxophone cry that shivered the cities down to the last radio, with the absolute heart of the poem of life butchered out of their own bodies, good to eat 1,000 years. That was stanza 1. Stanza 2. What sphinx of cement and aluminum bashed open their skulls and ate up their brains and imagination? Moloch! Solitude, filth, ugliness, ash cans, and unattainable dollars. Children screaming under the stairways, boys sobbing in armies, old men weeping in the parks. Moloch! Moloch! Nightmare of Moloch! Moloch the loveless, mental Moloch, Moloch the heavy judger of men, Moloch the incomprehensible prison, Moloch the crossbone soulless jailhouse and congress of sorrows, Moloch whose buildings are judgment, Moloch the vast stone of war, Moloch the stunned governments, Moloch whose mind is mere pure machinery, Moloch, whose blood is running money. Moloch, whose fingers are 10 armies. Moloch, whose breast is a cannibal dynamo. Moloch, whose ears a smoking tomb. Moloch, whose eyes are 1,000 blind windows. Moloch, whose skyscrapers stand in the long streets like endless Jehovah's. Moloch, whose factories dream and croak in the fog. Moloch, whose smokestacks and antennae crown the cities. Moloch, whose love is endless oil and stone. Moloch, whose soul is electricity and banks. Moloch, whose poverty is the specter of genius. Moloch, whose fate is a cloud of sexless hydrogen. Moloch, whose name is the mind. Moloch, in whom I sit lonely. Moloch, in whom I dream angels. crazy in Moloch, cocksucker in Moloch, lack-loving, manless in Moloch, Moloch who entered my soul early, Moloch in whom I am a consciousness without a body, Moloch who frightened me out of my natural ecstasy, Moloch whom I abandoned, wake up in Moloch, light streaming out of the sky. Moloch, Moloch, robot apartments, invisible suburbs, skeleton treasuries, blind capitals, demonic industries, spectral nations, invisible madhouses, granite cocks, monstrous bombs. They broke their backs, lifting Moloch to heaven. Pavements, trees, radios, tons lifting the city to heaven, which exists and is everywhere about us. Visions, omens, hallucinations, miracles, ecstasies gone down the American River. Dreams, adorations, illuminations, religions, the whole boatload of sensitive bullshit. Breakthrough over the river, flips and crucifixions gone down the flood, highs, epiphanies, despairs, 10 years, animal screams and suicides, minds, new loves, mad generation down on the rocks of time, real holy laughter in the river. They saw it all. The wild eyes, the holy yells, they bade for farewell. They jumped off the roof to solitude, waving, carrying flowers, down to the river, into the street. Stanza 3. Carl Solomon, I'm with you in Rockland, where you're madder than I am. I'm with you in Rockland, where you must feel very strange. I'm with you in Rockland, where you've murdered your 12 secretaries. I'm with you in Rockland, where you laugh at this invisible humor. I'm with you in Rockland, where we are great writers on the same dreadful typewriter. I am with you in Rockland, where your condition has become serious and is reported on the radio. I am with you in Rockland, where the faculties of the skull no longer admit the worms of the senses. I am with you in Rockland, where you drink the tea of the breasts of the spinsters of Utica. I'm with you in Rockland, where you pawn on the bodies of your nurses and the harpies of the Bronx. I'm with you in Rockland, where you scream in a straitjacket that you're losing the game of actual ping pong of the abyss. I'm with you in Rockland, where you bang on the catatonic piano. The soul is innocent and immortal and should never die ungodly in an unarmed madhouse. I am with you in Rockland, where 50 more shocks will never return your soul to its body again from its pilgrimage to a cross in the void. I am with you in Rockland, where there are 25,000 mad comrades all together singing the final stanzas of the Internationale. I am with you in Rockland, where we hug and kiss the United States under our bed sheets, the United States that coughs all night and won't let us sleep. I am with you in Rockland, where we wake up electrified out of the coma by our own souls' airplanes roaring over the roof that have come to drop angelic bombs. The hospital illuminates itself, imaginary walls collapse. Oh, skinny legions run outside. Oh, starry spangled shock of mercy, the eternal war is here. Oh, victory. Forget your underwear. You're free. I'm with you in Rockland. In my dreams, you walk dripping from a sea journey on the highway across America in tears to the door of my cottage in the western night. San Francisco, 1955 to 1956. That is Howl by Allen Ginsberg. I don't know what else is going on. Nobody wants to come into the room. That's fine. I guess that's true. No, I did I pin the fucking thing? I don't know. I'll just throw it in there again. Just throw that in there. Oh, it's only been an hour and 15 minutes. Holy shit. It's gonna go. Gotta go watch obviously check in on Bad Science Sunday. Carrie Ann, that's cool. I haven't been watching the chat. I don't know what's going on in the chat. I got no fucking idea. I could do just when this whole world starts getting me down, and people are much too much for me to take. I climb right up to the top of the stairs, and all my cares just drift right into space. On the roof, it's peaceful and so free. And there the world below don't bother me. Up on the roof. My knees are prodding on that. Yeah, there we go. I thought this was right. When I come home feeling tired and beat, I go up where the air is fresh and sweet. I get away from the hustling crowd and all that rat race noise down in the street. On the roof, the only place I know, where you just have to wish to make it so. Up on the roof. At night the stars put on a show for free. And darling, you can share it all with me. I keep telling you, right smack dab in the middle of town, I found a paradise that's trouble-proof. And if this world starts getting you down, there's room enough for two up on the roof. Up on the roof. Come on, baby. Come on, baby. Up on the roof. Up on the roof. Carole King. Anyway, that's a little poetry too. Hey, Bree. What's going on? I just finished. Yeah, Bad Science Sunday, of course. Oh my God, it's like, yeah. Oh wow, I seem to have missed a whole bunch of shit. All right, so I read through all of Allen Ginsberg's Hal, which blows me away. That was 1950 fucking six. I wouldn't be a bit surprised if YouTube cans it, cans the stream because I read Howl. That's how we think we've progressed. It's like Ginsburg got crucified, and it wasn't Northern Lights bookstore. It was Lawrence Ferlinghetti was Lawrence Ferlinghetti. Who also a tremendous poet. Maybe I can find a. Oh, he just died in 2021. That's right. Reliance bookstore. This bookstore. City Lights. There we go. City Lights bookstore. San Francisco. Founded in 1953, the year I was born. Maybe we can read some new poetry. Yeah. And then there were the hippie, anti-hippie tropes or musings of Frank Zappa. What's there to live for? Who needs the Peace Corps? I'm completely stoned. I'm hippie and I'm trippy. I'm a gypsy on my own. I'll go to Frisco, get the crabs, and take a bus back home. I'm really just a phony, but forgive me because I'm stoned. MC Hammers can't touch this. Well, actually, that wasn't actually. Let's see. Can't touch this wasn't exactly MC Hammer's original. He kind of ripped that off. Let's just say. Hmm. Oh, actually, he was ripping off the music, not the lyrics. Anyway, I don't know. So we've been in this whole recombination and rehashing stuff for a long, long time. I don't know. Oh God, that was MC Hammer. Can't touch this. Released 1990. Please, Emma, don't hurt him. Yeah, 1990. Jesus Christ, 90. 40 years away. 40 years ago? Really? Yeah, that's yeah. What are we doing here? What are we doing here? So we've gone from Carl Sandburg, beginning in like 1903, to Robert Frost, in the, I think 19. Who's what Cesar? I think I know was like 40s. I think I don't know. The 50s to the 60s, 70s, 70s. We need something from the some poetry from the 70s. Hmm. A Seamus Haney. Yeah, definitely. Let's see. or something off the top of my head. I can't. Ah, excellent. Give me a moment. Give me just one moment. Yeah, Station Island would be good. Seamus Haney is a bit of a hero of mine because he did a translation of Beowulf that is really quite wonderful, and picks up the nuance in the translation from Old English to contemporary English that works well, because it is a poem after all, and he has an ear for the language and for the telling of a story. And here's his poem, Station Island. Uh, Part one. It was a close gray morning, a reek of early summer, pith life, rotted things, reed beds, thick young corn, hushed and water blistered. Something beat on iron, a hurry of bell notes flew over sedge and iris, an escaped ringing that stopped as quickly as it started. Sunday, the silence breathed and could not settle quite, for a man appeared at the back of the hedge with a bow saw held stiffly up like a lyre. He moved and stopped to gaze at the shins of hazel trees, then angled the saw in, pulled back to gaze again, and moved on to the next. I know you, Simon Sweeney, for an old Sabbath breaker that has been dead for years. Damn all you know, he said, his eye still on the hedge and not turning his head. I was your mystery man and am again this morning. Through gaps in the bushes for your first communion face would watch me cutting timber when cut or broken limbs of trees went yellow when wood smoke sharpened air or ditches rustled. You sensed my trail there, as if it had been sprayed. It let you half afraid. When they made you listen in the bedroom dark to wind and rain in trees and think of tinkers camped under a heeled up cart, you shut your eyes to see a wet axle and spokes in moonlight and me streaming from the shower headed for your door. Sunlight broke in the hazels. The quick bell notes begun. A second time, I turned at another sound. A crowd of shawled women were waiting in the young corn, their skirts brushing softly their motion saddened mourning. It whispered to the silence, pray for us, pray for us. It conjured through the air until the field was full of half-remembered faces, a loosed congregation that struggled past and on. As I drew behind them, I was a fasted pilgrim, lightheaded, leaving home to face into my station. Stay clear of that procession. He was shouting angrily. Don't turn your back again. Sooner or later, son, you will have to face me with both eyes open. But the murmur of the crowd and their feet slushing through the tender bladed growth was another scent picked up, a drugged and open path I was set upon. I trailed those early risers who had fallen into step before the smokes were up. The quick bell rang again. I was parked on a high road listening to pit whips and wind blowing around the car when something came to life in the driving mirror. Someone walking fast in an overcoat and boots, bareheaded, big, determined, in his sure haste along the crown of the road. And I somehow felt the challenged one. The car door slammed. I was suddenly out, face to face with an aggravated man, raving on about lying, listening for gun butts to come crackling on me. Oh dear. Phone's ringing. Raving on about lying, listening for gun butts to come crackling on the door. Yeoman on the rampage, and his neighbor among them hammering home the shape of things. Round about here you overtook the women, I said, and the thing came clear. Your Loch Derg pilgrim haunts me every time I cross the mountain. As if I'm being followed or following, I'm on my road there now to do the station. Oh, holy Jesus Christ, does nothing change? His head jerked sharply side to side and up like a diver's surfacing after a plunge. Then, with a look that said, who is this cub anyhow? He took cognizance again of where he was, the road, the mountain top, and the air rinsed clear after a shower of rain worked on his anger visibly until it's a road you travel on your own. I who learned to read in the reek of flax and smelled hanged bodies rotting on their gibbets and saw their looped slime gleaming from the sacks. Hard-mouthed ribbonmen and orange bigots made me into the fork-tongued turncoat who mucked the buyer of those politics. If times were hard, then I could be hard too. I made the traitor in me sink the knife, and maybe there's a lesson there for you, whoever you are, wherever you come out of. For though There's something natural in your smile. There's something in it strikes me as defensive. I have no mettle for the angry role, I said. I come from County Derry, born in earshot of an Hibernian hall, where a band of ribbon-men played hymns on Mary. By then the Brotherhood was a failed procession, staggering back home drunk on St. Patrick's Day, in collarets and sashes fringed with greens. Obedient strains like theirs tune me first, and not that harp of unforgiving iron the Fenian strung. And a lot of what you wrote, I heard and did. This Loch Derg station, flax pullings, dances, summer crossroads chat, and the shaky local voice of education, all that, and always orange drums, and neighbors on the road at night with guns. I know, I know, I know, he said, but you have to try to make sense of what comes. Remember everything and keep your head. The alders in the hedge, I said, mushrooms, dark clumped grass, where cows or horses dunged. The cluck where, when pith lined chestnut shells split open in your hand, the melt of shells corrupting, old jampots in a drain clogged up with mud. But now Carlton was interrupting. All this is like a trout kept in a spring or maggot sown in wounds for desperate ointment. Another life that cleans our element. We are earthworms of the earth, and all that has gone through us is what will be our trace. He turned on his heel when he was saying this and headed up the road at the same hard place. I got back into the driver's seat. Sunlight moved apple green over the hill farms. A loch came clear. Bog cotton bowed its wet gray head, dried white, and raced the wind that shook the car with its soft buffetings. The airiness of being on high ground lifted me. I let the brake off, ran rumbling downhill without the engine, got into gear and started and began, relaxing to the road and the car's rhythms. It was 20 years since I'd done the station. Busloads of students after the exams. We were a credit. They could be proud of us. Those parents who sacrificed those other dour and threadbare founders in berettas, whose faces swam and faded. A roadblock swung into view as I took a corner fluently at speed, so that I had to brake and creep past soldiers flattened in the hedge with guns cradled on tripods covering me, up to 3 halted pigs under camouflage. The tightness and stillness round that space when the car stops in the road, the troops take in its make and number, and as one bends his face towards your window, you get sight of more in a field beyond, hunkering with intent behind black pupils with a perfect bore. It also has the pure calm of nightmare, like standing throat deep in a pool, your head, a severed head, on a pan of water. Name, sir? Driver's license? Destination? The light flotsam of his intonation skimmed past me like a part in Shakespeare. Cockney as Keats, or oh, what a lovely war. How different were the words home, Christ, ale master on his lips and mine. Just step out, sir. Open your boot and sign this document. Yet why should I fear him less than my own neighbor in the khaki of his Ulster regiment, his guttural, "Where are you coming from?" feral staccato and familiar as the muffled drum beats of a July drum. This island, sir. We've had a lot today, heading across there. What's it all about? They're pilgrims. It's a kind of purgatory, I answered. He was handing back the license, but shouted to his mates up in the street of a pig. It's the Bible thumpers we're getting through this area. Okay, you can drive on those, sir. Two riflemen waved their rifles to motion me away. A little emptier as always, drained, bodiless almost, as if their armament and insolence, natural or trained, had flushed out of me everything I was, so that all that was left was bone I'd betrayed and the steering wheel in my obedient paws. But soon it felt like a fictional event. The temper of the voice irrelevant to blowing heather, cloud shadow bent, thorn trees in the roadside, lanes to farms I never entered, but without entering knew their dog barks, chain clinks, puddles, and mildew. To be at one with things, a piled up calm, a ploughed field in Ulster white with gulls, I began to roar. I hate where I was born. I hate my neighbor. I hate everything that made me biddable and unforthcoming. And so I drove for the border, a goaded shadow. That's Seamus Haney writing a poem in the time of troubles, I believe. Okay, let's see. Where are we? What time is it? Is it time to go? Is it time to go be silly? No, I was trying to be a bit Ulster speak. Having had Meth Pig on recently, I figured I could at least give it a good shot. Yeah, Ulster, Northern Irish. It's very American. It's not too far off certain American dialects. The Ulster. A lot of hard, a lot of hard Irish, a lot of hard Irish. Yes, being born isn't it in Boston isn't it being Boston? Well, Boston's a little bit more Rhode Island. My home of all homes is the Plymouth colony and the Rhode Island colony. That's the home of all homes for me. Nothing good from Boston coming from Yankees. Oh fuck you. Bring it on. Come on in here. Uh, Yeah. I don't know why Yankees fan. I mean, Yankees fans just basically like to lord it over the rest of the world because they had such a successful team for years and years and years and years. Oh God, that's all. I've seen many a game at Fenway. Back in the day when it used to be actually inexpensive to go to Fenway, it was right, to go to a baseball game. You go to a baseball game for a couple of bucks and sit in the bleachers and scream at people. I lived in the Fenway. I lived in the Fenway, and I was living in the Fenway um, when um, the Red Sox beat the Reds. That Carlton Fisk home run, and you could hear the park from across the fence. You could hear the park from across the fence, and the screaming in the neighborhood was equally as loud. It was pretty amazing. It was pretty fun. It really was pretty fun. Yeah, Yastrzemski and Colin Fisk, Tony Conigliera, and but we sucked for years. I mean, the Red Sox sucked for years and years and years and years. So, give us our shot every now and again. It's fucking Yankees. Because it's just like the people that hated the Patriots when they went on a run. You have no idea how long the Patriots sucked. They were terrible for years and years and years. Now they suck again. So it's like these things run. And sports is sports. It's just, unless you're playing, you know, unless you're playing the game, it's just what the fuck difference does it make? It's all commentary. That's the way I feel about it anyway. It's like having, playing the game, the sports game I play. It's like when people are going, well, they're running up the scores. Like, that's what you're fucking supposed to do. Got the, got the advantage here. I gotta keep pressing the advantage here. I don't want to quit. Why would I let my foot off the gas? It's kind of dumb. No, I'm going to crush. And there's also the thing about when you're in the moment and doing the stuff. When you're actually doing the stuff, it's like there's an awful lot of let's keep this going. Let's keep this going. Can't lose concentration. Can't lose focus. Don't lose focus. Just gotta stay in it. We could lose it at any time. Everything could go to shit. And sometimes everything does go to shit. But you can't lose that focus if you are participating in the game, never mind watching it. And that's what people like to see. Usually, I think. Well, I love that dirty water. Oh, Boston, you're my home. That's the way it goes. Yeah, it's crazy to me that Boston was essentially Shawmut. The Shawmut Peninsula was an island, right? It's connected to Dorchester connected to Roxbury actually by a little tiny isthmus that was awash at high tide back in back in 1630 when the place was settled. Yeah, uh, pretty wild, pretty wild. The history of colonial Boston is really quite something. Well, we can. I was born down on A Street, raised up on B Street. Southie is my hometown. Southie didn't exist in the colonial era. Southie was not anybody's hometown. It was underwater. You basically had the North End and the Commons was the shoreline to the west. If you look at the streets, I know it's confusing. The North End, yes, exactly, the North End. The North End and North End and the West End basically was it. Not much. Yeah. And I could pull up a map of colonial Boston today. Yeah, it is wonderful. I mean that the Union Oyster House. I used to I lived I lived in the Fenway down by Symphony Hall and the Museum of Fine Art. I lived on Museum Road. The first place I lived in Boston was on Museum Road, and that building isn't there anymore. It burned down. It was next to the Greek Orthodox Church, which is still there on Museum Road. But I used to go to the Isabella Stewart Gardner Museum all the time, just to walk around, and it used to be free. And you could just sort of go into Isabella Stewart Gardner's home and look at the Rembrandts and the Vermeers and that stuff until somebody stole the fucking Vermeers and the Rembrandt. Boston's a wonderful place. It really is. It's a wonderful, wonderful place. It's an incredibly walkable city. I would walk from that area down to City Hall, Faneuil Hall, the Faneuil Hall Marketplace, Faneuil Hall District, uh, and do my shopping there on in Haymarket on Market Day, which was Friday and Saturday, and yeah, it's a good place. It's a good town. It's I lived there in a good time. There was rent control. The studio apartment was heated, all utilities, $100 a month. It was awesome. But we ain't gonna find that no more. The only problem was that at the time I was living there was during the desegregation stuff in the mid 70s. And that was a very tense time. Very, very tense time. Particularly because the Fenway. I lived across the street from the Mission Hill Fire Station, and there was an awful lot of unrest, and so the Mission Hill Fire Station was extremely busy. Speaking of the T, it was on the Green Line. It's on the Huntington Avenue Green Line, right? You go out there. Jason knows what I'm talking about. But it's a busy place, and it was sort of a borderline place, like Northeastern University is right on Huntington Avenue, right kind of across the way, and then Roxbury's up Mission Hill. So there was the Fenway side wasn't too big of a deal, but there was an awful lot of racial tension going on. And it was a difficult time in the history of the city of Boston. It was a very, very difficult time in the city of Boston. I Maya, 30 minutes. 30 minutes to Maya time. Um a gentleman by the name of Mel King, who just recently passed away, was kind of a hero of integration. And the King family, his Mel's was Grandma King, his family uh, was a member of the church I attended, and I was Mel. Mel's like 20 years older than me, so he was close to my brother's age. And my brother was 20 years older than me, so I kind of knew the guy. And again, this church I attended in my youth was a predominantly, by the time I was growing up, a predominantly black church. And I think David David was his nephew, and David King and I were baptized on WBZ TV in 1953 because I was the white baby and David was the black baby, and so we're all being icy nice on the TV, even though the fucking city was as racist as fuck. Curious place to be. Had a strange life. I don't know. I'm wasting all you guys' time. I've been on here for 2 hours, and Maya's coming up in a bit. So I appreciate you all hanging out, though. This was a new one. Reading some poetry online, reading Allen Ginsberg online. That was kind of crazy. Um, I do appreciate all you guys hanging out. Yeah, Jason, every place changes. I mean, The Augusta, Georgia, that my city, sorry, that my sister worked in the early '60s, ain't the same as it is now. I mean, every place has changed. I don't think, I think when it comes to racism, we've all got little bits of it from training and from habit. And the key thing to overcoming, this is the whole this is why the whole debate over critical race theory drives me insane. It's like, hey, it is incredibly difficult to make an argument that systemic systems of privilege do not exist that have favored one group over another over time. And it is incredibly naive to think that members of each group, the favored and the disfavored, have not taken cultural succor in the systems that were devised over that period of time. So I know that in my upbringing, even in growing up in a predominantly black church, I still had the inculcation in the belief that somehow or another there was deference due me, even though I myself personally didn't see why that should be as a child. I was still raised that way. This is what institutional racism is supposed to mean. It is what it is. The only way that we all overcome that institutional racism is by being cognizant of the fact that these are built-in biases. And it's like when people say check your privilege, it's like, oh well, that's woke, that's a woke thing. No, dude, I get so fucking sick and tired of these assholes. It's like, well, we got this post racial bullshit. It's like, fuck, man. No, check your privilege. Check your fucking privilege. Listen, you know, one of the things I don't want to be too much an asshole about this, but one of the things that eh, one of the unusual experiences that particularly trans women experience is you thought you knew what patriarchy was. Try to see how much you don't know as soon as people perceive you as being female. Just see. Just go ahead. Give it a whirl. I'll tell you what, brother. The amount of the amount of the amount of knowledge that apparently I lost from people that actually in my field. It's like, oh well, what do you know? What do you know? It's like, what do you know? What do you know? It's like, uh, guys want to drive boats. They don't want to. They don't want a woman to drive boat. And it's like, hey, let me give you a hand, honey, or let me just tell you this, honey, or let me just tell you that, honey. And it's like, Jesus fucking Christ, asshole. And it's a if you want to get things done, there's a style. You learn the style. You want to get things done, you learn the style. It's not you don't get to assert that, well, here are the facts, blah 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 blah. No, you just have to make it sound, well, don't you think there are strategies? There are uh there are games that one plays. And the same thing plays through when it comes to gender, comes to race. All of these things, these are things one does. It's the talk. And it's really, I don't, if you, I think it's, I think it's really quite interesting that people of privilege, people who hang on to privilege, don't want to acknowledge that they have it. Why that should make them uncomfortable is a mystery to me. Why they should be uncomfortable acknowledging that they have it and examining how they can make it better in their day-to-day interactions with other people. And it's just, this is the nature of what being woke means. It's like being aware that this shit's going on in your day-to-day interactions. And it ain't that hard. Just be aware of it. And it's not that it's going to kill you. It doesn't kill you to be aware of it. It only kills you if you just want to hang on to your privilege. It only kills you if you want to deny that it even exists. I mean, it's not the people that out and out proclaim that the privilege exists. This is the way it is. This is the thing that God created men over women and whites over blacks or whatever the fuck it is. Whatever that mm, is. As King said in that letter from a Birmingham jail, it's like, outright shallow acceptance is far less understanding. I'm paraphrasing, far less understandable than outright bigotry, outright resentment. Far less understandable. It's like shallow understanding. Try. It's like give it a whirl. You just try a little bit of empathy for a change, and don't be resentful when people ask you for that. It's just really fucking weird. Anyway, I think that rather than carrying on for however many minutes for another 15 minutes, I think maybe let me just get a link to Maya's stream over here in the place. And you probably all have it anyway, but I just want to be sure you're going to the right spot. It's like, well, we're going to do this because this should be pretty cool. This should be pretty cool. And I don't know how to, because I'm not monetized. And by the way, God damn it, get people to subscribe to this channel. Would you please? It would be really cool if you think that it's worthwhile. I like to be able to do some more stuff, and I'm super grateful to the people that have helped me get equipment and maybe pay for a little bit of the subscriptions and this and that and the other thing. But yeah, give me a hand up every now and again. That'd be great. Anyway, let me just fuck me. I'm just so bad at finding the right stuff in the right place. I'm just so terrible at this. All right, there's a link to Maya's stream coming up in 15 minutes or so. And I'm going to say again, thank you so much to everybody who came by. And Ember, I just got your stuff in the chat and the side chat and stuff. And I'd love to have I'd love to have you have a chat with you at some point in time. Anybody else, but Ember, I particularly want to catch up with you a bit. And hi, Wes. All you guys, I love you a bunch, and I appreciate everything you've done for me, and hope to put out some stuff for you guys. So good night, bye. Go watch Bad Science. Ciao.